Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing another episode of The Fire Pit. For people who do not know what the show is, it is a show where I go through and I discuss the best movie of the month and the worst movie of the month, aka the most fire movie of the month and the most biggest dumpster fire of the month. To start things off, I do kind of want to start on a positive note. So we're going to be talking about the movie that I think has been the best movie of the month of May so far. Okay, so starting with the most fire movie of the month, I will admit this was a really hard one to pick because, in my opinion, the top three movies that came out this month are all really similar. They have a lot in common, and I think for the most part, I honestly could have picked any single one of them in this spot. They're all very solid, but I decided to go with the movie Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I really enjoyed this movie. I think that this is a great franchise, and I think that this is a great addition to this franchise, and I think that one of the big things that I think puts this above some of the other movies that came out this month is just its incredible cinematography. I think that everything that they're able to do by bringing these apes to life is absolutely fantastic. I think that the human characters in this movie serve an interesting purpose, and I like the fact that they're setting up a lot of things for the future of this franchise. And I think that overall this movie just has a really interesting style to it, and I think that I personally thought that all of the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, all those movies were ridiculous and stupid, but watching this movie kind of helped me understand that, like, these are very serious movies, and they have a lot to work with, and they have a lot to kind of give you as an audience member. So I had a good time with this movie. I thought it was very fun. I think that this is one of the funniest of all of the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movies that I've seen. I think that overall, we get introduced to some great characters. I think that Noah is a little bit generic for now, but he's definitely got a lot of room to grow. And some of the dynamic between him and the main human character, Nova, aka May, is really interesting. And I like that little back and forth that they have. I like some of the reveals and stuff that they set up here. Like, a lot of people view Caesar as a religious character. I feel like that was a great way to kind of support the legacy of a character who we followed so closely, because having one trilogy go from this same character, you're following him from the time he's a child to the time he's like a middle-aged adult to the time that he literally dies. The fact that this movie has the opening sequence paying homage to Caesar and we get to see his funeral is very beautiful. And I like the fact that we are still 300 years later talking about Caesar and preaching the ways of Caesar. And I do also like the fact that this movie kind of addresses some of the problems with like religion and stuff like that, which is sometimes stories don't get passed down relatively well. Sometimes things get a little like smudged down the line, and it's kind of like a game of telephone where it's like you whisper something into somebody's ear and then they whisper into somebody else's ear, and then like it goes around, and by the end of the circle there's a completely different message, because some people will remember certain parts of things that people say, but they won't remember the whole thing. And they address that really well head on in this movie, because Caesar was somebody who always believed that apes should work together, apes together strong, and they also never kill other apes. And Caesar, Proximus Caesar, the villain in this movie, is taking Caesar's words, but only the first half. He's doing, apes together strong, but then he's also enslaving some apes, and he's using apes as his own personal army to do his bidding for him, and he's kind of using them in a way that Caesar never in a million years would have used them. But his justification is literally the words of Caesar, which is apes together strong, which I really thought was an interesting way to create this villain. I thought that he was a very menacing villain, and I think the fact that he only had about 15 minutes of screen time, but he was able to make such a huge impact, was another reason why I really enjoyed this movie. I think that the other couple of movies that I was arguing between or trying to debate between had similar issues with their villains, where like they didn't have a whole lot of screen time. And in my opinion, the one who had one of the best presence of all of the villains that we've seen in the month of May was Proximus Caesar. So overall, I like this movie. I thought that had a great aurora to it, and I think that overall, I'm excited to see where this franchise is going. Whereas some of the other movies that came out in the month of May, they were fun, but I don't think I could see more movies of them in the future. Like, I was a really big fan of Mad Max Fury Road, the Furiosa movie that came out, but if that's the last ever Mad Max movie, I would not be upset about it. I think that it was a very solid movie. I think that the franchise is very interesting, but there's only so many places you can keep going from that story, whereas this one, it plants a lot of seeds for future stories as well. So, in my opinion, that's the best movie that came out in the month of May. It's really close between that movie, The Fall Guy, and what's it called? Very underrated movie. I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it, but Turtles All the Way Down, that released on, I believe, HBO Max, was really solid. I very much enjoyed that movie. If you're a fan of coming of age stories, I would definitely recommend checking that one out. But that being said, like I said, these were all really close in quality together, in my opinion, so it was really hard to pick one above the others. But that being said, the worst movie that came out this month was a little easier to decide. Now, I am going to go ahead and preface this by saying I have not watched the Netflix original movie that came out called Atlas or something like that. Stars Jennifer Lopez. And like I said, I haven't seen it. I don't intend on seeing it. And I've heard that it's basically like a hour and 30-minute long sensory video, and it's just a bunch of CGI mesh. So I'm not planning on seeing it, and I don't really want to give it attention. But the movie that I do want to talk about as the worst movie of the month, in my opinion, is the movie Strangers Chapter 1. I feel like this movie did not set up anything at all with what the strangers are. Sorry, I absolutely butchered that. But I think that the big thing is the advertising of this movie. The whole point of this movie was like, hey, you want to know how the strangers became the strangers? You want to know what made the strangers what they are? First of all, terrible premise for a movie, so I'm glad that we didn't get that answer. And second of all, they basically just redid the original Strangers movie, but if it was with characters who didn't have as much chemistry and you don't care about as much. And I think that overall this movie just feels like they dragged out a story that definitely could have been like the first 30 minutes of a movie. And I'm a little stressed out because they made this movie and they recorded Strangers Part 1, right? Strangers Chapter 1, whatever. Then they made Strangers Chapter 2 and Strangers Chapter 3. They recorded them all at once. And I'm a little concerned because of how long and dragged out this movie was and how slow and painful and boring a lot of the sequences were, that this entire trilogy probably could have been one movie. Because like I said, there are some scenes in here that work really well for me. There are some scenes in here that are absolutely ridiculously stupid. And there's a lot of very unnecessary like tension building moments. Like there are sequences where Madeline Petch's character is like, you know, just complaining about the fact that none of the places in the area have vegan options. And then there's also just like a lot of like really forced like tension between the main guy and girl because like, oh well, they're just not quite getting things right. They've been together for 5 years and he never once proposed, and like they definitely love each other, but their relationship is on the rocks. And I think that like overall it just feels so manufactured. It doesn't feel like a very solid horror movie. None of the characters feel real, and I think that that's one of the big things that made the Strangers movies as special as they were, was the first one felt like it was something that could actually happen in real life, and that's part of the terror of it, whereas this one, everything is so cartoony. Some of the villains like literally will move like half a mile away from, you know, where they're standing in literally like 5 seconds, so they've got incredible speed, and it just kind of got to a point where it's like they're almost like paranormal in this movie. And as much as I think that that is interesting and it works for some of the horror stuff, it makes what made this first movie really good, and it takes that away. And then they also try to like recreate some sequences from the original movie, which I'm not gonna spoil or anything, but they just do it, and they do it significantly worse than the original. So overall, I can't say I enjoyed this movie. I'm not really looking forward to the next one because I think that they're just dragging out what could have been potentially maybe one movie, maybe 2 movies with a 3-movie arc. But that being said, it was okay. It just theatrically released, very disappointing. Very disappointing. But yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. And if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow. Back at it again, but that's a relevant flow. So smooth, they calling me Mr. Elegant. Like an elephant, I got a long nose. Like a president, I've got a few hoes. Swift with a stutter, I'm smooth like butter. Don't see it coming when I slip undercover. Like a big dog, but I don't bite. I'm still a big broad, I'd win that fight. Come match you and I knock out your lights.